Brigham. How are you today?
Good, Vandy. How are you?
Doing good.
Thanks
Did you
so
have a
much for
good
being.
Thanksgiving?
I did. It was great not having
Oh.
worked for, you know,
Oh.
for that many days and then just forgetting
Yeah.
about school, even though I probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have for
Oh,
whatever.
but sometimes we all need a break. So,
I did need it. I paid the price the past couple weeks,
oh,
but it was worth it.
worth it.
Yeah.
Oh. So, what were you thinking you would want to focus on mainly today? What's our goal for the session?
So first of all, I just wanted to apologize for not only this past 3 weeks, but also I feel like the past like few months, I've it's been a big transition period for me. Starting grad school and also working full
Yeah,
time. Uh,
right.
so I'm still kind of getting into a groove of things. Not that I was ever that
Right.
good
Finding
about,
your footing. Yeah.
yeah, not that I was ever that good about doing my assignments, but I was at least a little bit better. And and but I have actively decided like that. I was like, no, I don't want to stop these lessons. Like I do
Oh,
still want to do these. So
right.
yeah,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
just
That
wanted to
it's
get
like
that
this
out
is
there.
something that's important to you, and you're like, yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of kind of figuring out where to prioritize energy, how to balance things, and when you're first starting out something new, it really is. It's tricky.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's. I mean, like I know, like I said, like I wasn't the best about working on things before, but like I at least put in a bit more effort than I have since August. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I just wanted to let you know that I am aware that that's something
Oh,
of that, and I am
yeah,
still
right. But yeah, that
invested.
sometimes it's like, it's just been a lot to juggle. So it's like, okay, you're doing the best you can with where you're at, and you're gonna, try to improve more, and balance things better. But I think especially when it's new, when you're embarking on new things, it's harder to figure out how to manage time and
Yeah,
handle things the best way possible. So I get that.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that. I just want to
So
make sure
we've
that I was still taking these seriously. So
Yeah. So we have been working on narration, specifically narration with multiple different characters mixed in, so that we had multiple character voices we're creating along with having a narrator voice. How are you feeling about that at this point?
so the one that we were working on last time, well, actually, the the segments from like the book that we've been working on the last
Yeah.
few lessons, I
Hmm.
I I wanted to put a pin in that because I do want to actually dedicate some time to it,
Okay.
um, which I haven't had the chance to do yet. Um, but so I do want to come back to that
Okay.
um, in a like if not in the next lesson, in the one after. Um,
Yeah.
but still in the same vein, there was kind of narration and character voices, kind of a big shift, but something that I kind of just it's kind of fun, but also like I actually found myself kind of struggling to do it when I just kind of tried it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a new book. I was wondering if we could
Yeah,
read from the
sure.
Polar
Yeah, so we
Express.
can
Yeah.
can kind of, because even sometimes in the same genre, if you have different authors or just a different book in general, you will find that even in the same genre, it might have a little bit of a different feel to it. So even
Mhm.
if you say like, oh, I really specialize in commercials, there can be all kinds of different styles of commercials. If you
Absolutely.
specialize in narration, there are different styles of narration, right? So I definitely think it's a good practice to switch it up and say I'm going to try narrating some different things. So
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
Yeah. Sweet. I was actually thinking the Polar Express.
Oh, that would be cute. Yeah. Very timely for the season of the year.
Yeah,
Love
I thought so. Yeah.
it.
And I've noticed that like even with like children's books, especially like
Yeah.
the really timeless ones, it's like they reach a point where it's like, instead of having like, this very children-like narrator, if they reach a certain element of like timelessness, like it'll start to become a little bit more serious again. The narration
Hmm.
will. Like
Right.
still lighthearted, but like they'll have, some big celebrity read it or something
Hmm.
like that. Um,
Yeah. Because
and
it's become a classic. It's sort of
yeah,
graduated into this, you know, a more elevated status.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I tried doing some of it, but I think it's just because it's children's literature isn't something that we've done a whole lot.
Yeah.
I I I I was like, oh, this is kind of tricky. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have the text in front of me, and I was
Okay,
wondering if maybe we
yeah.
could try this.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And, it is really interesting because sometimes you might anticipate something being, not that hard to read out loud. Like maybe when you read it, one of my other students recently pointed this out to me. They were like, when you read it off the page, it just seems normal. But when you start saying it out loud, it feels really weird because, when you're the written word is often different than our conversational speech um,
Mhm. Or the
or
voice in
they're
our
just,
head.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel the same, or maybe reading it on paper feels totally natural, but then when you try to phrase it, like link those words together, you go, wow, that's almost like a tongue twister. And it just can catch you off guard. Sometimes it's just the speech pattern maybe of the author is different than yours. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
challenging yourself to read all kinds of different things is great. So
yeah.
yeah, so you've got your passage picked out. Did you practice this already, or are we just getting started together?
Not aside from like reading through it like a couple times,
Sure, right.
like a
Yeah,
week
just kind
ago.
of familiarizing yourself. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, let's go ahead and do that first read through out loud then and just kind of feel your way through. I call this the stumble through. We're just kind of feeling the words in your mouth, getting used to the flow of them. If you fumble a little bit, no big deal.
yeah. Okay, sweet. Yeah, and and I have like three different passages that
Okay, great.
we can.
Awesome.
Okay, sweet. All right, here's the first one. I had to split it between two, but yeah, there we go. Okay. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was waiting. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There is no Santa, my friend had insisted, but I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. All aboard! The conductor cried out. I ran up to him. Well, he said, are you coming? Where? I asked. Why, to the North Pole, of course, was his answer. This is the Polar Express. I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard.
Nice. Wonderful. Okay. So, at this moment, in the story, what do you think we are trying to do for the audience in this moment? What are they supposed to feel? What are they discovering for the first time? What are those, like, what's the ambiance of this moment? Who is the narrator? Um, who do you think the narrator is targeting this towards or directing this to?
Mhm. Well, he does state right away, like, that this is me a long
Mm-hmm.
time ago, a
Yeah,
Christmas Eve.
right.
Um,
So
and
all
it's,
grown up, but talking
yeah,
about when he was young.
yeah, which automatically suggests kind of this wise, nostalgic,
Mm-hmm.
almost kind of fantasy, like almost like an old, almost like you almost like imagine that he is an old man by this point,
Mm-hmm. Like
but
a
like he's,
grandpa telling the
yeah,
story to his grandkids or something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
telling this crazy story that he knows is probably crazy, sounds crazy, but it's true.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, what do you think is the goal here? Is it imparting wisdom? Is it entertaining them? Are you distracting them? What do you think is the goal here?
So I'm a little bit split because it's like I feel like he is very much trying to make sure that you can picture it. He is trying to set the
Hmm.
scene, but also I'm
Yeah.
surprised because he also kind of he doesn't dwell that much on it. Like he casually remarks, it's like I looked through my window and there was a train outside my house,
Hmm.
and then he just kind of goes along with it, and
Yeah.
and he so it's like he doesn't waste time, making sure that you can picture it perfectly, or if something is a
Right.
little bit crazier out there, he doesn't. He
Yeah. He's
acts like it's
like,
all
this is what
just
happened. So,
yeah,
a little bit matter of fact about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so is this the
Almost
very beginning of the book?
this
Is
is the
this
very very
really
beginning.
like what kicks everything off? And if so, how do we really make this impactful for the audience? How do we really grab their attention right from the get go?
Hmm. It's hard because a lot of this I was about to say, like, it almost feels like he himself is just like going just off the cuff, like saying what he remembers, like,
Yeah.
just like I did not rustle the sheets, I breathed slowly and silently, you know
Mm-hmm.
like, and maybe that's why it's almost kind of a little bit matter of fact, just because he's just saying as
Here's
he
what
remembers it,
happened.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
yeah.
would say it really is usually in that first about 10 seconds that you have to really grip their attention. So what do you feel like it is that makes this very compelling right from the beginning?
Wow. I know this is kind of a cop out, but the illustrations do really help in the book. But
So, but if you're the voice, like if this is an audiobook, you're all they have, right?
yeah,
So how do we create that world for them?
I think it's almost like you need to achieve this deeper emotional, like subtle, but like enough, like tone that like what I'm saying is important, and
Okay.
and
So helping them feel the weight of that this is important.
yes, it's like
Yeah.
I know that I'm just telling this, that I'm going to be just telling the story. I'm not going to be like, you
Mm-hmm.
know you know talking about how grand or anything like it is. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
tell it the way it is, but I do
Sure.
need you to still understand how important it is.
So, what do you think you could be responding to? Like, what was the trigger, the thing that was said that you're responding to, or the thing that happened that causes you to tell this story?
I almost picture like a maybe a grandfather or an old man talking to who, maybe even almost kind of a Forrest Gump kind of thing, where whoever happens to just be there, who he's just suddenly feels like it's time for me to share this story, to
Okay.
share this experience. And maybe it's because he feels like it's when it's needed, or
Okay.
maybe it's because
Yeah.
he's finally ready to share it, or
Okay. Yeah. So you could have something like, you have an older grandchild who's like, Psh, Santa's not real. This is all just fake. And, it's just consumerism and presents. Like, Christmas
Mhm.
doesn't matter. This is stupid, and you're like, well, let me tell you a story, and
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to, show them what the true meaning of Christmas is or something,
Yeah.
um, and so if you can capture for yourself, what it is that is giving meaning to this story for you, then that's going to carry for your audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were going to tell this story to somebody in real life, who would you tell it to? Why would you tell it to them? And, how would you connect with them as you tell this story? So sometimes just making it really personal instead of hypothetical and saying, what if this actually was me telling this story? Who could I tell it to? And why would I tell it? And, how would I tell it to them and connect with them
Yeah.
authentically? And then that can help you really settle into that more. But I
Okay.
also would say, remember that it really is in that first, 5 to 10 seconds that you really capture your
Absolutely.
audience. So be sure that you are emotionally engaged and energized right from the start. Yeah? Can we try
Yes.
that again?
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. If I could just pause there, like, did that feel like it had more weight to it?
Yeah, yeah. It was almost like the feeling when there's somebody who doesn't always say much, but then when they say it, it's like, oh, this is really important. It kind of had
Yes.
that feeling to me, like somebody of few words, but who, when they speak, you listen up because it's
That that
meaningful.
that is kind of what I was going for.
Hmm.
Like almost like even if I was like a grandpa telling the story, it's like I wouldn't even introduce it. I wouldn't gather the kids around. It's
Right.
like they would just be talking, and then it's just like he just starts speaking,
Yeah.
and and he's just one of those people that people immediately listen to because he
Right.
doesn't talk much, and whenever
Yeah.
he does, it's like
Hmm.
it's important, and
Right. That it's
everybody,
meaningful to you, so then they realize how meaningful it is for them to be
yeah,
hearing it. Um, and I also kind of got the feeling too that, how sometimes people are like so loud that people just ignore them. And then there are
mhm,
people who are kind of more soft spoken, but it almost makes you lean in to catch what they're saying more. It
yes,
had that kind of quiet intensity to it, which
yes.
had a little bit of this like magical air to it, like
Oh,
hushed
really?
whispers, kind of a feeling, like bedtime story, kind of,
Oh, yay,
yeah.
yay! I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really nice. Um, I'd love for you to try it again and just really pay attention to what are my key most important words. What are my people, places, and things? What are my action words or, meaningful descriptive words that you really want to bring out more and lean into those a little bit more and bring through those strong points of view about each of those important words. Can we try that?
Yes,
Great.
that first sentence is hard because it's just like obviously like I feel like one of the most powerful words in there is just Christmas Eve.
Hmm.
When someone starts with
Yeah.
on Christmas Eve, it's like
Right. Yeah.
we're about to hear a
You
story.
automatically are like, oh, okay, it's a Christmas story. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it definitely has a certain vibe to it,
yeah,
an
and
energy
then
to it.
but then so does many years ago. Like that also
Hmm.
adds this. It shifts a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it just takes this huge like
Nostalgic.
yeah, but then it just takes this huge like I don't know kind of left turn into just like on Christmas Eve many years ago. I lay quietly in my bed. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
It's almost like you have this little intro, but then it's like you're there living it with them, right?
yeah,
It just
and
kind
I
of
just have those
like
two little
takes you
phrases
there.
too. to
Hmm.
take them there
Right,
and and
exactly. Yeah.
automatically have them like so that have
So
them
you
engaged
set the
enough to.
stage, and then it's like they're there with you, re experiencing the memory and living it with you, walking in your shoes, kind of a feeling. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. What was that? How was that?
That was pretty great. Yeah, and like when you say the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh, there are so many words here that just kind of have their own magic to them.
Mhm.
Like Christmas Eve and many years ago, you
Yeah.
said like those just have kind of a weight to them
Mhm.
and a meaning to them that people just instantly kind of are like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
it's nostalgic, it's the Christmas spirit. And thinking about these words that just they have a life of their own to them. Yeah, very nice. Awesome. What did you like best about that read through?
I I okay, like I might have whispered a little too softly for like if it was this was like an audiobook, but I liked kind of going for it,
Sure,
you know,
yeah. And I
in that
mean,
way.
with the levels and everything, you can make that work. So if you wanted to read this in that like quiet intensity kind of stage whisper kind of feeling, I think that's a perfectly fine choice to make.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like at first I was like, maybe I was a little bit too liberal with the pauses, but I was like, maybe for this
They
first
didn't
paragraph,
bug me.
especially, it's
It kind of
important.
added some suspense, I felt like.
Yeah,
It definitely didn't pull me out of the story.
yeah,
It kept
yeah,
me a little more like on the edge of my seat and like, what's going to happen next?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
it's just a little bit of a different energy to it. Definitely different than the last book that we were working on, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They're
So a
very, very
different
different.
energy, a different style.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it truly didn't bother me at all. It just felt a little more suspenseful.
Mhm. And I also felt like I did manage to maintain this kind of sense of like, since I'm like just starting the story, like I'm still like recalling it. Like
Hmm.
I did not rustle
Yeah.
the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently, like almost like he's
Right. You're
remembering
thinking
himself.
through
Like,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like you have to remember and relive it and then you communicate it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine choice to have it
Yay.
come across that way. It truly didn't bug me at all. It didn't
Okay.
even stand out to me. Like, I didn't notice drastically long pauses or anything. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That is excellent. Okay.
Yeah. So
So,
as long as you feel like you stay engaged, there can be a lot of power in the silences, I think.
okay.
These
Yeah.
moments of stillness. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
I thought that was beautiful. So, I think if you feel good about that section, I would love to hear. I know you said you had three different sections. So, if you wanted to try a different section, it probably will have a little bit of a different, energy to it because it's a different part of the story.
Yeah. Could I try just this second part first, real
Oh, yeah, for
fast?
sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess start with the last paragraph of the first
Hmm.
part. Okay. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. All aboard! The conductor cried out. I ran up to him. Well, he said, are you coming? Where? I asked. Why, to the North Pole, of course, was his answer. This is the Polar Express. I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard.
Nice. Okay. So I think in this section, we can start giving it a little bit of a faster
A little bit
action.
of a rhythm.
Like trains, they run on a pretty strict schedule. I also thought there was an opportunity to showcase a little bit more of like surprise, like, what? There's a train right outside my house? And
Mm-hmm.
then, him being like, well, to the North Pole, of course. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the Polar Express. Where do you think it's going?
Yeah.
And like a little bit more of uh, it's just that like everything is a new discovery. Like everything is surprising. I mean, you're just waking up, right? And like
Yeah.
from sleep, and or you're just settling into bed, and now there's a train right outside in your yard. What? And I was also thinking you can make like when he calls out that all aboard, a little more
Mm-hmm.
like booming,
Yeah.
even if it's not like a ton louder, just having it be that you're very resonant, like all aboard, like you're calling out to everybody, even if it's not loud per se, it has
Yeah.
that kind of feeling that you're like calling out to everyone,
Yeah.
even if
I
there's only one person there,
yeah. And like my instinct was to do that, but I think it's just because right before that, just like I tiptoed downstairs and out the
Mm-hmm.
door. It's just like
Yeah.
it feels like so quiet, and like I didn't want to like
Right. But I
just
think that's
suddenly
kind of the point, like that we want the contrast, right? That it should feel surprising and it should feel like, whoa, like I'm in a whole new world,
oh
We went from this like
yeah,
sleepy child um
kind of
to,
wakes them up a little bit.
yeah, like being at the train station. There's a train stop in my yard, right? Yeah. Um and maybe like when you like place your hand in his, is it hesitant or is it like, yes, let's go on this adventure? So a little bit more of like making it feel like not so much like you're telling a story that you already knew what you were going to say, but more like what you felt in that moment as you lived it that first time.
Yes.
Yeah, can we try it again?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Uh,
I also think you can play with like the conductor's personality too. Is he like annoyed about the questions? Is he like, TikTok, we're on a schedule? Is
mhm,
he very like welcoming and nurturing? So
mhm.
those kind of things too, like
Yeah.
creating the
Okay.
character.
Yeah. Okay. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. All aboard! The conductor cried out. I ran up to him. Well, he said, are you coming? Where? I asked. Why, to the North Pole, of course, was his answer. This is the Polar Express. I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard.
Nice.
Better?
Yes. How'd that feel?
Definitely a lot better. Uh, I'm glad that I wasn't as scared of the contrast that time.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, I added a little bit to the conductor, but I guess I didn't give him that strong of a personality, aside from just like
Mm,
maybe I was trying to give him almost like I think it wasn't until he said like "Why to the North Pole?" Of course, this is the Polar Express. It was almost like with some pride, showing off like yeah, it's like yeah yeah like to the North Pole. Like why? Well, where else would we go? Like this is the freaking Polar Express that you're looking at right here. Yeah, like where else would you be going? You know,
yeah.
and then like with the boy's attitude, it almost kind of like he doesn't really know why he's doing it. Like he just kind of feels like
Hmm.
I took his hand. I yeah, I just did.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And he's like, so, he reached out, so I took it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I definitely heard sharper shifts in the speed, which I think worked really beautifully. I also felt like I felt like there were stronger points of view, and it was clear that there were different perspectives, like different characters with different perspectives, different personalities, which I
Mhm.
thought was showcased really nicely.
Yay.
Um, yeah. Anything else that you would want to tweak there? What do you
I
think?
thought I think it was pretty good. I feel like the
Yeah.
conductor might be like maybe the more I do it, like I might add a little bit more here or there,
Okay.
but like you know, I feel like that was still professional, but also filled with you could tell it was somebody talking. You know, you know.
Yeah.
I felt yeah, I felt good about that one.
Okay. All right. So, good. So, do you want to go to the next section then?
Sure.
Okay.
Right. Um, oh gosh, I didn't. Come back. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Ah, here we go. Sorry, I had to did do a little correcting from the
Yeah, that's
scanned
fine.
text. Okay. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When that says it. Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box under behind the tree. Let me try that again. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father. "It's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe. So, yeah, the ending.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me, how do you see this section different than that opening section?
So I tried to come into it with a bit more energy, not as, setting the stage and everything. By this point, I'm already in a groove, I'm already in a rhythm,
Yeah.
telling the story,
Mm-hmm.
um, and, and more of a
Right.
flow.
So we are in the middle of it, right? We're in the
Yeah,
thick of the story at this point.
yeah,
Um,
like past the climax, even really. Like,
exactly. Yeah. So it's like we are well underway. They should be fully absorbed at this point.
yeah,
Um,
like wrapping it up.
right. But when you have a long project, sometimes, you know, you might have worked on it before and be coming into it. And so, how do you, as a voice actor, get yourself to feel, energized and engaged and fully in it with them if you're coming into it after a break?
Hmm.
Or if, like, you jumped to a new section, like we did, where you didn't have
Yeah.
all the in between lead up, what can you do to help yourself stay committed emotionally and like fully engaged in the story?
Yeah. I feel like my instinct, at least, would be to, uh, well, first of all, I hope that if when I'm recording it, I'm not surprised by what is happening. I'm hopefully by that point I know what has happened, or at least the gist of what has happened and what the context is.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like my instinct would be to maybe start like maybe a little bit before when I need to actually,
Okay.
um, just to kind of make sure that I have that flow going into it.
Yeah.
Um, because I feel like if I know the story and I get myself a couple paragraphs of cushion,
Hmm.
um, I feel like I'd be able to get into that groove.
Yeah.
But as one with experience, you might be like, hey, yeah, no, that's not true. So I don't know.
Well, so what happened right before this?
He um he already got the bell. He was selected, to get the first gift of Christmas. He requested the bell from Santa's sleigh, um, but then found out that he lost it. It fell through a hole in his pocket.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. Um, he's heartbroken, and then the Polar Express drops him off, and he goes back inside his house, and the conductor just yells "Merry Christmas" to him, um, and he goes back upstairs, and then it cuts to the next morning.
Yeah. So, how would your character be feeling when it's the next morning, when they like wake up and it's the next morning and they remember all of this?
I feel like so at first I want to say that, like, maybe he's still really sad about it, but it's like I feel like at this point he's grown and also like understood Christmas enough that, like, while he's still sad about it, like he's still happy that it's Christmas.
Hmm.
And like he's not like Christmas morning, we open our presents. And like the bell's almost just like a pleasant surprise.
Hmm.
Like like he had already expected that to never see it again, and he had accepted it. Or maybe he was wondering if
But he
maybe I
had
just
this
dreamed it.
beautiful adventure, right?
Yeah.
And so waking up and remembering all of that,
Yeah.
um,
And maybe he
is
maybe he's just like,
pretty,
maybe I just dreamed it, but it didn't matter. Like
but it felt so real.
yeah, yeah,
It was meaningful to you. It was real to you. Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah. So if you think about it, the character, waking up the next morning, it would almost be like there was some kind of, break in the connected thread for them anyway. It would be like a new beginning, right?
Yeah, and I feel like the story actually kind of does that in, making sure to include that little part of when the train drops him off
Mm-hmm.
and the conductor just yells "Merry Christmas."
Mm-hmm.
Like it's actually like a fairly detailed scene for such a small little
Right.
thing. Like it's like describes him dropping him off and how he yells something and he yells back, because he's like I didn't hear him, so I yelled back like what? And he yells back "Merry Christmas."
Yeah.
And yeah, like
Yeah.
almost like he included that to like almost like it could have almost ended there,
Right.
uh, um, and it still would have been bittersweet. Um,
Yeah.
and then this is
And
just like a
like a
little,
reminder too of like what it's all about. You
yeah,
know, it's all about
yeah.
Christmas. Yeah.
So instead
Mm-hmm.
of like relief and shock at finding the bell, it's more just like a happy little surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe not little, but a happy surprise, a pleasant surprise.
Right. Yeah. Good. Um, if you said maybe like what the emotion is right at the start of this section, and then maybe like a middle and an end, what would be like the beginning, middle, end of this section of like the emotional arc?
So I feel like it starts out happy and content because it's Christmas morning and he's happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that happiness suddenly spikes when he finds the bell
Yeah.
and finds the note from Santa Claus and he's able to hear the sound again and his sister's able to hear it with him. And then it takes that very sad sudden turn when the parents can't hear it. Um,
Yeah.
especially because like up until that point in the book, it doesn't hint or say anything about like now you can only hear this bell if you really believe or if you saw the Christmas spirit. This is the first time it ever does anything with that. But like almost immediately like uh like that's how it works. Um and so there is that kind of that very almost kind of that tragedy that happens halfway
Yeah,
through.
that it's like, oh, they don't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're telling, if you think about the whole purpose of telling the story, it's to be like, you guys have to believe, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you won't experience the magic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like he doesn't say he doesn't say like it's like and then I realized it. It's like it's because my parents didn't. It's just like my parents didn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that simple observation is powerful enough to convey what he
Yeah,
needs to.
right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. And then the the closing that closing little epilogue monologue whatever
Yeah.
is um is extremely bittersweet,
Mm-hmm.
melancholy, nostalgic,
Yeah.
beautiful. um it's like he's sad but he's smiling
Yeah,
instead of
yeah. I think like the bittersweet feeling, Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Good. So let's try this section again.
Okay, cool. Anything about the Santa Claus note is in quotations, so it's like crap. I was like crap, I actually need to Santa
Yeah.
like
So what's your first instinct with that?
I see if I was reading this to like a bunch of little kids,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously I feel like I would exaggerate, the
A little more like playful with it.
yeah, the Santa that they you know imagine and know.
Yeah.
Um, the, the way I would personally do it is I feel like I kind of did it the way I felt like I would do
Mm-hmm.
it. Is just you know kind of this old just old wise voice.
Sure.
Um, um, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean you're reading it as this older, wiser person, so and you're giving voice to it. So I think if, that's your instinct is to have it be this like wise old sage, kind of
Mhm.
imparting that message, then I say follow that instinct and, really lean into it, fully commit to it.
Okay, sweet. I was scared that
Yeah.
you were gonna say like, no, make him sound like Santa. Like ho ho ho. You know,
Merry
your
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Fix that hole in your pocket. Okay. All right. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents, and it looked as if everything had been unwrapped. Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father. "It's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas where that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I have grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe.
Nice. Good. Yeah, I thought that worked really beautifully.
Yay!
Nice.
I thought that was pretty good, so I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad that.
I thought like the Santa line and like each of the parents, I thought that came across really nicely. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was
Yay!
really clear, who was talking when and, their different perspectives. The mom is being more like, sweet and nurturing, and the dad's like, oh, bummer. It's
Yeah,
broken,
yeah, it's broken.
like,
Yeah, it sucks.
that sucks. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like the different perspectives coming through.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought that worked really nicely.
yeah. Okay. Yay! I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, and like being kind of sad that like even your sister couldn't hear it anymore 1 year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that last epilogue, like I feel like I kind of went back to that beginning pace of
Yeah.
I'm
Kind of
I'm
like
where I'm
bookending the story.
yeah, where I'm kind of going off the cuff and just kind of spitballing what I'm thinking as I'm
Yeah, that your
telling
character
it.
is no longer telling a story that had happened before, but just like processing where you are in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost almost
Nice.
like almost like the as it does for all who truly believe. Almost like he comes up with that like right in that moment, just kind of like
And it's like, and
as
here's
it
the
does
moral of the
for
story,
all who
children.
yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, and it kind of rhymes. This is going to be really good here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, what would you say is the number one key takeaway from this session? The number one thing that kind of stands out to you that you're like, okay, I want to remember this.
Uh, not to be afraid of contrast,
Okay. Yes. Love that.
and then also uh, not not to get too caught up in, oh, this is a children's story. I need to talk. I need to do it like, like if I'm narrating, I my audience is going to be very different, and my job isn't to keep a bunch of kids looking at
Yeah.
me.
Like a
It's
clown at a party. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's
I mean, your audience could have whole families, all kinds of generations, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so as a narrator, it's more important to convey
Hmm.
the meaning as close to
Yeah.
the story.
Right. I
Like the
mean,
story obviously
there
is
are
still very
definitely
important, but
movies that, even as I've grown older, are still meaningful to me and have depth, and they mean different things to me now and land differently because I've changed, right? And so there's definitely a way that you can perform it where it connects with, across the board, all these different generations of people. So finding that sweet spot. What do you think is maybe the number one thing you felt yourself improving on as we worked through this?
maybe the the second thing was probably like my biggest takeaway. The first thing I said is probably the thing I think I improved the most
Okay.
was was adding more contrast and
Yes.
not having it.
Allowing it to have those sharper shifts,
Yeah,
like speed changes, contrasting characters. Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. And then what do you think is still the number one thing that you feel like, I could still work on this? Like, I could still have some room to grow in this area.
Um, I feel like my character voices, like I said with the conductor, it's like they were kind of, it's like yeah, they were distinct. Not that much effort was really put into it, and maybe not that much effort is really needed, but like, I could use a bit more. Um,
Okay.
I would say,
Yeah. So just kind of leaning in a little bit more
yeah,
to, the differences and like characters that are different than you, kind of embracing that a little bit more.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Which is it's a lot.
Maybe
It was a lot
try
easier
playing
with
with some
like,
character inspiration for that this week. Like, try, if this actor played the conductor, if this actor played him, So if I
mhm,
said, I'm going to do it like how I think, if I said, okay, I'm going to take, if Christian Bale played him, and then if The Rock Johnson played him, and then
mhm,
if I had, another contrasting one like Ewan McGregor, like I picked just
yeah,
like three very different,
they're
actors, and
very
I say, how
distinct.
would each of them portray this character? How would, you know, Jim Carrey play the character? It would be very
Oh gosh,
contrasting from each other, right? Or if I
yeah,
said, okay, like I'm going to take all the different characters in the Fellowship of the Ring, and say, how would
mhm,
Gandalf play him? How
yeah,
would Gimli play him? How would Legolas play him?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how would Samwise play him?
yeah,
You're going to get a
yeah,
very different read. So sometimes I find, like, when I want to shake it up for myself and just challenge myself to stretch myself, I'll, make it a little bit silly even and do like drastically different character inspirations, because then it just kind of like, gets me willing to, be silly and try things, and it just kind of shakes me up a little bit, where I'm not stuck in
yeah,
this idea, and where I can, you know really like stretch my wings a little bit and be playful with
absolutely,
it. So
yeah,
maybe try that and see
yeah,
if that gives you some different ideas. And sometimes I surprise myself. I go like, oh, I did not think that particular character inspiration would serve me well,
yeah.
but wow, I really
But that
like the
actually
way
was
this
really
one
good. Yeah,
line came across. Like, maybe I should play with that more and consider that perspective. And so it really can, give you different insights too that you wouldn't otherwise have thought of. So that might be a fun exercise to try this week.
okay, yeah, yeah, and like it was a lot easier with, I think, with the last book, just
Yeah.
because like when they talk a lot more, and
Mm,
it's very heavy dialogue, and the dialogue is heavy,
yeah.
in terms of content.
Hmm.
It's easier to really kind of hone in on to like, okay, who this guy is, and really convey. With this, it's a little bit harder just because it's just like there isn't that much dialogue. People that like the main characters don't say that much.
Hmm.
Um,
But when they do, it's important, right? We want it
which
to
yeah,
land impactfully.
yeah,
Um,
which is why I think it makes it hard, because it's just like, is I don't have as much time to you know
right.
feel myself
Yeah.
into the voice, but also the lines are more important, even more important, because You
That's
only
a
got.
good point. You don't have time really to warm up into the character. It just
Mhm.
has to already be in that zone. So
Yeah.
this might be a place where, if I was recording it, I might pause the recording and say, okay, I'm gonna pause for a moment, practice this line a few times, and then I'm gonna record it, right?
Mhm.
So that it's not necessarily, just me just reading through. I might actually like stop and redo that character line a few times and make sure that I've really got it the way I want it to come across.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was also really glad though, because like I one of my biggest goals in this was like, okay, I need to make sure that I do not copy Tom Hanks at any
Aw,
point.
who is great. We love
who
him,
who I still cry when I watch that movie because I love it so much. But
Yeah.
I was like, I need to make it, you know, it's on separate thing. I ended up listening to an audio recording of Liam Neeson reading this, and I was like, that was an odd choice, and it was weird. It was weird, but like, but it did help kind of break me out of the Tom Hanks shell,
Yeah.
just to hear Liam Neeson read the Polar Express.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were like, whoa. Yeah. But it takes you out of, trying to copy and do it
Yeah.
exactly like Tom Hanks. I mean, I love Tom Hanks. I not too long ago watched A Man Called Otto for the first time, and I was just
Mm.
like bawling and was like, he's so good,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
he's amazing, right? But the
He
issue
is.
is
He is an
we are
incredible.
not Tom Hanks. So
Yeah.
if we try, it's just going to be a cheap imitation rather than something that's authentically emotionally engaged, if we really put our heart into it. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key is finding how you can truthfully engage in the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the essential thing. But yeah, when you're like, oh, it's something I really love and I've listened to it so many times, you just kind of have those patterns in your mind. So yeah, I think you
Yeah.
did a really nice job. I mean, every time we stopped and reflected and set new goals, you were changing every time. So, that
Yeah.
just tells me that you were able to put that aside and not do it exactly the way you hear Tom Hanks in your head, but to really make it your own, which is
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
great.
Yay! Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it's so good to hear.
Yeah, well, awesome work today.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. Yeah, thanks
This
for
was
going through that with
great.
me.
And I really do think that the work we've been doing with the other book, with the different characters, character voices with the narration, I
Mhm.
really do think that that probably helped what you did today quite a bit. Like if
Yeah,
you had tried to do this prior to that work we've been doing recently on the other book, I think this would have been a lot harder.
yeah,
And that component I actually thought like came a lot easier to you today, being able
yeah,
to switch from narrator to character to
yeah.
narrator to character. So,
Despite the differences in the complete different style,
yeah. And it,
like,
it came more quickly, right? Like we were able to get through more because that element you just it was easier for you to access, I thought.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. Awesome.
Yay!
Well, great
Oh,
work overall. Beautiful work on this. I would love for you to try to record, even just one of the sections of it, but if you have time doing both sections will be awesome. And then
mhm.
if you want to email those to me, I'd love to take a listen to them.
I
See how
am
much time you have?
finished.
No pressure.
I'm finishing with my classes,
Yeah.
in the next week and a half.
Yeah, finals
So
and whatnot. So
yeah,
I
so
totally get it if you
but
don't
that
end up
means that
having
I
time.
yeah, but that also means that I have 3.5 weeks. That I also means that I have another week and a half that I should
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that I should not have an excuse. So
Ah! Alrighty. Well, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Good luck
sweet.
on
Thank you
all
so
of
much, Andy.
your, on your finals. And I hope that that all goes really well and enjoy the, start to your Christmas season.
You
And,
as well.
keep up, the good work. You're on the right track, and every time we meet, I hear progress. So I think that what's great is even with meeting every 2-3 weeks or whatnot, we are able to still stay on track, right? So it's like you still
Yes.
have accountability, you still have consistency, and you get to keep that like compounded effect where it just keeps
Yeah.
building on itself. You don't have
Yeah.
just like dead time. It's
Yeah.
always
When
there.
we,
It just, might not be as often as prior, but at least, you stay on the track, which I think is great because
yeah.
it always makes me sad when it's like somebody, falls off the track a little bit and then they're like, oh gosh, I didn't do any voiceover for a year and now I feel like I lost it.
Mhm.
So I love that you're like, okay, I want to, even if it's not as much as you were doing prior, that you're still doing the work and showing up, which I think
Yeah.
is the most important thing. That and
Yeah.
even
When
if
I,
you did, take a break, you just get back on the horse, right? And
mhm.
you get back to it and you find your way.
when I asked to switch to every 3 weeks instead of two,
Yeah.
I was really worried that I was like, does that mean that like if I don't do like the stuff in between, like will it be just like starting over every lesson?
Oh,
But I have
yeah.
been surprised that
Right.
I do just kind of pick up where I left off. It
Yeah,
feels like
even
every
if
lesson.
you didn't have time to practice a whole lot or anything, I
Mhm.
mean, your brain remembers the work you did in the lesson and it sticks and it just keeps building on that. And so that's something I've always tried to be really disciplined about too is just having someone to keep me accountable. So it's like I have to check back in, with my coach too, so that it's like, because then it's like I want to make them proud too. So it's like, okay, I
Mhm.
know, it's like going to counseling or something. It's like I know
Yeah.
that I'm gonna be seeing this person, so I have to go do my homework and whatnot, and
Yeah.
because I don't want to disappoint them. And
Yeah.
so I think it's great that, even though you do have other things going on, you've been able to keep building on this skill that like clearly it's really important to you. So I'm just really glad that you've kept at it. So,
Yeah. Well, thank
and
you for being
the work
patient.
is showing. So just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Will do.
All right, Brigham. Well, you have a good night, and we'll
You too,
see you
Vandy.
soon. All right.
Awesome. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.